So welcome to the synthesis of Vaska's complex. So I've already got a 50 milliliter Schlink flask here attached to a clamp and the line for nitrogen when we do the nitrogen flush. So the first things we need to add are our solids. So I've got here 393 milligrams of triphenylphosphine, which we will add. Remove the funnel, these are kind of bigger pieces. Get them into our flask now. The next component we need is our iridium chloride trihydrate, 105 milligrams, which I have here on this balance. It's kind of a brown, slightly purple solid. We'll add that carefully here as well. Okay, then we can rinse down our funnel with 10 milliliters of DMF. So this is dimethylformamide, this is our solvent. Just rinse off our funnel here. Now we will add our final component, aniline. So I've got here a small syringe and a needle so that we can measure it, or get it up into the syringe, and just pour a little bit into this beaker here, just a tiny bit. And then we need 0.12 milliliters, or 120 microliters. So we'll just go. Catch the drips here in our beaker. So I was catching the drips from the syringe as I make sure we're at the correct level here. Mark right before the 1.1 milliliter syringe here. So there we go. There's our aniline. We begin our stirring. Put this in a Sharps container. So now I've got a reflux condenser with a septum on it. Pre-greased this joint here. Bend it up. And then we can add our bubbler here to the top. Flush our system with some nitrogen. nitrogens. Okay, I will let that purge with nitrogen for a moment while I get an oil bath set up for it and get these water lines clamped. So I've got our oil bath in place. We're still flushing a little bit of nitrogen through. I'm gonna get these water lines secured. I've also got some rubber bands in place to secure our joints just in case. Water flow. Nice slow trickle. Doesn't have to be a lot of water flow. Great. And then, ever important, we raise our heat source to our flask. And turn our stirring down just a little bit. And we want the level of our oil the level of our solution inside the flask. So that should work there. Turn on our heat. We can get thermometer in place as well to have an idea of the temperature and decrease our nitrogen flow. I believe is barely a trickle. Okay, so here's our setup. I've got everything hooked up. We've got a minimal amount of nitrogen flow through the system while we are maintaining our heat. We're getting our heat on here for our reflux. So because we're refluxing this in dimethylformamide, the boiling point of which is 153 Celsius, I picked a thermometer that will let us go that high. So we need our temperature up to here. So we can go ahead and probably turn our heat up a bit more. This is already heating. I think I'm seeing some vapor forming up here. Don't know what that is, but and then this will reflux for 2 hours or more. Before we move on to the next step. So we'll be back when we're ready to move on to the next part. So it hasn't been that long, maybe 15 minutes, and we've already reached reflux. You can see our solution is boiling nice and rapidly, and our thermometer is reading about 160, about 165. So, all right, we'll just let that keep going for another 2 hours. So this has been refluxing nicely for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. We've got a good boil still going on. So at this point, I'm going to turn off the heat and lower the bath and let this cool before moving on to the next step. Okay, so our reaction has reached cooled down to 50 degrees or less. So I'm going to turn the stirring off on our oil bath, lower it even further, and actually just push it out of the way. Turn off the water for our condenser. We don't need that now. In the meantime, we'll just raise the condenser so that's also out of the way. And we can turn off our nitrogen flow. slightly. So there's our ice bath, but we're not quite ready for that. First, we need to add 30 milliliters of methanol. Let's clean the grease from our joint first as well. This might be more than we can handle in this flask. I guess we'll add it until we fill it up. Okay, we got it all. It's quite full, but it will be okay for this step. Now I will raise up our ice bath here. As high as we can get it. Cover up as much of our solution as possible. Rotate that. Yeah, we're not going to get any higher. Anyway. Turn this off. Alright, we'll let that sit and see if we have some crystals in a little while. Alright, so our cooling is complete. The ice bath didn't quite get as many crystals to form as I thought as I expected, so I actually just put this in the freezer for a bit. I believe the freezer is somewhere around minus 20 C, so there's a decent amount of crystals in there now. So let's swirl those up, and I've got our filter set up already, and let's get them collected. Our flask is a bit small for this volume, but we'll make do. Actually, let me pour off some of that or get a bigger flask. Okay, poured off the filtered solution. Get stuff out of there. All right. That, and then let's actually go ahead and dump off that amount as well. Let's do this for a second. And then we should wash the crystals with a little bit of methanol, so that's what I've got in here. So let's turn the vacuum off for this. Let's get just a little bit more. And then washing them also with a little bit of diethyl ether, which I got in here. More than enough there. Just says a few milliliters each, so. Alright, and then we'll dry them on the vacuum. It's actually probably a good idea to get rid of our wash washings first. We'll just combine them with our other filtrate. Pull vacuum on our crystals here. Dry them out. Alright, I'll be back when these are dry and we're ready to move on. So I think our compound is dry now. Let's another little stir here with our spatula. Yeah, pretty nice. So we'll turn off the vacuum. Take it over here where I've got a vial teared on the balance. Let's double check that tear. Might get one more little bit out of there. Okay. It looks like my yield is 95 milligrams. Something like that. Okay. And we would move on from here. So to do the oxygenation portion of the Vaska's complex lab, I've got 40 milligrams of the complex here on the balance. And we're going to take that. Over here to our flask. I've got a funnel here that's dry. Put that into the flask. And then we'll wash that down with 20 milliliters of toluene. And then cap that with the septum. So then to bubble oxygen through that, I've got the oxygen canister right here. Turn on the oxygen here from this top valve. This valve here on the side, the small one, will be what we use to open and close the flow. Got here a tube with a small piece of syringe in it so we can attach a needle. And then I've got this longer needle so that we can reach down through the septum and into the solution. And then to relieve the pressure so that as we flow oxygen through, we don't pressurize our flask. Got a bubbler here. This tube here connects to the bubbler with the needle as well. We'll just push through like that. And then there's this to turn on and off. And we can turn on the stirring as well. Let that go for about a minute and a half with the bubbling of the oxygen, and then we'll remove both the needles. So it's been that minute and a half. We will now shut off the oxygen over here. Remove both of these. Stirring pretty rapidly for 90 minutes. So this is done stirring. Turn that off. And a nice our solution here. It's a little bit less yellow than it was. Anyway, at this point we'll evaporate this down and then we'll have a solid that we can perform IR on. Rotovap. Plug in pump. Rotation. Alright, we'll be back when that's evaporated. So here is our Vaska's complex after being treated with O2. And I think we're done here on the rotovap, so I'm going to shut this pump off. Now that that's off, okay, turn off our rotation. Raise that up. Looks a bit greenish to me, but there's our residue, and then we'll be getting an IR spectrum of this to look at the differences between this and the original complex. Alright, good luck.